Welcome everyone. Thank you for investing your time into this. I appreciate this. We've called this Tour de Tanya. The goal is to get through an overview of the entire Sefer, which is an incredibly ridiculous, what's the word?
Goal?
No, yeah, whatever.
Feet. The word you're looking for is feet.
Yeah, either way, but I'll just put it in context. I give a lot of shirim in Tanya, and one of the show I'm giving right now, I think we're 35, 45-minute classes in, and we're just holding at the beginning of Perek 10, and there's 53 chapters. So to fit the whole thing into 450 minutes is a big feat. So b'siyata d'shmaya should be zocher. This is we're going to try and turn your head over a little bit in regards to Hasidus. Hasidus is not Vortlach that we learn, little snippets of cute Torah that a lot of people think it is, or at least Chabad Hasidus isn't. We're going to be really stretching our minds and grappling with some very deep concepts, Bezrat Hashem. But it's not an easy. It's not like just an easy little fun thing. This will be work, and we have to remember that what we're going to be learning conceptually are building blocks. Just like when you learn Aleph Base, each one of those letters is going to help you exponentially understand everything else. So in Hasidus, that works conceptually very much. Just like in science, you build on your knowledge. So we need to build a few concepts before we can even jump in, and they'll build and build, and before you know, we'll be able to start making binyanim in our own mind. Okay. So I'm designing this class. I've so far done the first of the 10 classes, and this week project is the next class. It's as an introduction. Tanya's really an investment. I think I can now, I thought about this a lot, and I think I can, with my hand on my heart, say that I have now invested thousands of hours into this Sefer, and that's not like stretching it. I think it's over 2,000 hours that I've put into this little book. So the goal, really, my real goal, is to just kind of ignite you, because this is a personal project that no one can do except for you, no one. However, what I'm trying to do, I don't know if anyone knows, but I run an online school of photography, and we've been Baruch Hashem very successful in working out a way to really teach people how to be good photographers very quickly. So I'm going to try and implement those same techniques that I've done in the school to try as best as I can. Hi, Dad. To try as best as I can to create for you a shortcut to bypass some of the time that it's taken me to get some of these ideas down. So I'm going to be, after the class, I'm going to send out everybody. I've created these sheets that will be designed to help you digest and ingest the information. There's, just as a quick thing, I'm going to say, when I send you the documents that go with each class, there's these little hyperlinks. And what I've done is, over the years, I've written lots of essays on the ideas. So we're only going to briefly, well, hopefully deeply understand things, but still go through things briefly and quickly. So I've linked other essays that will help you if you're interested to put some extra time in without having to go to the difficult text of the Tanya itself, that you'll be able to try and go over the ideas and get the ideas clearer and clearer, and eventually they'll start becoming who you are, as opposed to ideas that you just quote. They will be your lens through how you perceive reality. And that's really what we're trying to do here. We're not just trying to remember a lot of cute information. We're trying to actually merge with the information and have that become our perspective on reality. So the first thing we need to clarify is two terms, toiv and ra. Before we do anything, we need to get a definition of toiv and ra. Anybody who's spent any time with me knows the definitions that I'm going to give over. Toiv we could translate, which obviously we translate as good and evil. Toiv we could translate as selfless. Ra we could translate as selfish. We could also, in the same breath, translate good, toiv, as transparent. And in that context, we would translate Ra as opaque. We could also translate toiv as surrendered. And in that context, we would translate Ra as not surrendered. Okay, the concept of good and evil means the good is the ability to perceive another. You can, if you want, but I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to go back. It's going to be quick from now, so I'm not going to be able to go back over anything. But the idea of being good is rooted in the idea of actually doing something for another. When I'm doing you a favor, that there's some kind of ulterior motive, I'm trying to get something from you, that's not good. Everyone knows that's not good. All human beings agree on these definitions when you actually push them, and they'll define when someone is being good, it means they're in it for you. When someone's not being good, it means they may be in it for themselves. They're in it for themselves, and they may be aware of you. That would be not good, not bad. But if somebody is evil, that means they would be indulging in something that they want at your expense. So when you think of that conceptually, we're really understanding that good means the ability to see beyond myself, and Ra is the inability to see beyond myself. So we could call that selfless and selfish, transparent, opaque, surrendered, non-surrendered. We're going to go much deeper into these ideas, B'ezrat Hashem, but those are the most basic blocks that we need to move in the Tanya. That's the most important thing we need to know. Okay, so the question is, what is Hasidus? Before I even start talking about Tanya, I wanted to answer that, or try and answer that question. What is Hasidus? Ask 10 Hasidim what Hasidus is, and you will get probably 3 people answer and 7 people abstain, but you're definitely not going to get the same answers. Nobody seems to have a definition of what Hasidus actually is. So I think that from what I've learned, and again, obviously everything is my take on things, but we can understand deeply what Hasidus is from understanding where the Baal Shem Tov's Torah came from. So the Baal Shem Tov, who was Mechadesh Hasidus, so to speak, he was born in 1698, died in 1760, and his Rebbe, anybody know who his Rebbe was, apparently, as legend has it? Yeah, Achia Shaloni. So the Rebbe of the Baal Shem Tov, as legend has it, and I researched it quite extensively, and I couldn't find the source, but it's just like, this is what everyone says. So Achia Shaloni was a prophet who lived about 900 BCE. So that's nearly 3,000 years before the Baal Shem Tov. But because we're from Jews, we don't have a problem with that. So that means that he learned on some kind of spiritual context from his neshama or whatever. But the fact is very relevant. Achia Shaloni, if we learn a little bit about Achia Shaloni, it will explain to, after I realized this, it mamash explains to you what Hasidus is, the way I understand it. Achia Shaloni was the prophet who stood between, he was the grandson of Elia Cohen in Shiloh and by the Mishkan. I'm going to say this briefly, so if people aren't holding in the history of Tanakh, just take my word for it. You can research it. There's links to research it more if you want. But he stood between when the Malchus, when the kingship of Solomon, of Shlomo Melech, kind of disintegrated into the 2 kingdoms of Yehuda and Yisrael, the 10 tribes of Israel and Yehuda. It was Achia Shaloni who was a student of David Melech, King David, and who was a contemporary and apparently very close with Shmuel Hanavi. He was the one who was basically instrumental in the break of the two kingdoms, from Israel dividing from the single Malchus, the single kingdom of David, into the two kingdoms of Yehuda in the south, and Israel, the 10 tribes of Israel in the north. So Yehuda comprised of Yehuda and Benjamin and a lot of the tribe of Levi. And in the northern kingdoms, it was the 10 tribes, the other 10 tribes, basically. So what I'm going to say here, maybe some of you will understand and maybe some of you won't, but that split in Yisrael was the break of, was the beginning of Galus, was the beginning of true exile, the true spiritual exile of Israel. The split from Yehuda and the split into Yehuda in the south and Israel in the north, under Yerovam in the north and Yeroham in the south, represented the break between behavior and essence, between what you do and who you are. If Gabriel might understand, if you have the south, Yehuda, the 3 garments, and then you have the 10 Eser Koiches, which is above in the north, there was a break between who we were and what we were doing. Achia Shaloni is the link that links back to the state before that, when we were one, when who we are and what we did was what's the word? Was in line, was synced. So the Rebbe of the Baal Shem Tov says when he was 26 years old, he sat with Achia Shaloni for 10 years. They started on the word Bereshis, and 10 years later, they finished on the words Kol Yisrael, the entire Chumash, the entire Torah. And at that, when they finished Kol Yisrael, Achia Shaloni pushed the Baal Shem Tov into revealing himself. So the Torah of Baal Shem Tov is really Torah Achia Shaloni. Achia Shaloni was also the Rebbe of Eliyahu and Navi, and it was. I'm sorry. 1 second. 1 minute, Joe. This is really. I'm going to turn off 1 minute. Okay, that's better. Sorry. So that's not even good anyway. Sorry. So it's really Achia Shaloni was the Rebbe of Eliyahu and Navi, and also Achia Shaloni had a very strong connection with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai as well. So we're really sinking back to Torah Mashiach. That is what Hasidus is. It's not a cute thing that we learn on Shabbos afternoon. It's linking back to the neshama of David Melech, which is really linking back to the neshama of Moshe Ben, which is really linking back to the Ribono Shel Olam mamash. As is with all Torah, but this is on a more, the way we understand it, on a more direct level nowadays. So we could say that Hasidus really is the deep experience of understanding, of perceiving the unity in the multiplicity, the yichud in the riboy. We live in a world of endless multiplicity, endless bits and pieces, but we know that Hashem echad, and we believe that. Hasidus, learning Hasidus in the way that I've been privy to do this now, actually moves your mind or moves your being into a place where you can start to experience the unity within the Riboy, and it becomes part of your everyday reality, which has huge implications. Now, another quick, another like conceptual piece that we need to plug in is the concept of the higher unity and the lower unity. It's called Yehuda Elah and Yehuda Tatar. Two completely different concepts of unity. Yichud Ilah, the higher unity, is conceptually the concept of just echad. You can't use any other words. Echad. Like the analogy that we have in this world would be when you open up a seed and you break open a seed and you look and it's just white. You know somehow that the entire tree, with all the branches and the leaves and the fruits and the roots and the trunk, everything is in there somehow, but it's just white. It's just pure white. That's Yichud Ilah, which is the highest level of all reality, and you can't say anything about it. It's no thing. That's the best way. It's nothing, no thing. It's just echad. That's Yichud Ilah, the higher unity. What's the lower unity? The lower unity, we're zoich in this generation to understand this clearly, is the concept of organizational unity. The tight functioning of a healthy organization or an organism, which is from the same words. When you have a multiplicity of parts, an endless amount of separate parts, but they are all completely nullified and in their place and functioning differently, but they are functioning not in unison. What's the word? Symbiotic. That's a really good word, but I don't know what that means. In a
symbiosis.
They're synthesized with each other. They're working with the bigger picture in mind. Like when you look at I don't really watch sports, but you can imagine like a football team or a basketball team. They're one being. They know where everyone is, and they're not single individual people. They're an entire organization. That's the lower unity. That's called Malchus Shemayim. There's Shemayim and Va'aretz. The Malchus is that's comparable to what we said before, to what you do. There's who you are, and then there's what you do. The who you are is Echad Yachid Miyuchad. The who you are is one. The what you do is a multiplicity of apparently fragmented parts. But really, if there's the lower unity in place, they're really all one. Now, what happens when your multiplicity, your life in the world, which is made of lots of parts, is all directed and in sync with who you are? What happens is who you are flows into what you're doing. And that's the concept of Mashiach, is that the world will be functioning in a unified organizational system where everyone will have their part. The Jews will be playing their role, the non-Jews will be playing their role, and they'll split into lots of parts as well. And the animals will be doing their thing, and the sky will be doing its thing, and the ground will be doing its thing. And every part of creation will be playing its specific role. What will it all be following? It will all be nullified to the purpose of the Creator, to the Yichud Ilah, to the higher unity. And then what that means is that will draw the higher unity into the lower unity. And the riboy, the multiplicity of this world is endless, 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 will become completely unified with that unified light that will pour into it. And we will have the true merging of Shemayim and Aretz, of the heaven and earth, which is what the Rabbeinu Sholem is desperate for. We call that the Dira B'Tachtonim, the dwelling place in the lower realms. Okay, onward. So this is hinted to in the name of Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov. Shem means name, and Tov means surrendered, or let's say surrendered in this context. Your name is not who you are. Your name is what you do. Your name refers to your life. Your car is part of your name. Your wife is part of your name. Your house is part of your name. Your skills are part of your name. Your personality is part of your name. Everything that you have, okay? We're not our personality. We have a personality. Some people, more or less. We have a personality, yeah? But we're not our personality. We have a car. That's a tragedy when somebody actually thinks they are their car. And there's a lot of people who think that. But we have a car and we have a lot of stuff. All the stuff that we have is called your name. The Baal Shem Tov, he was the master, the one who mastered that his name became completely transparent. Tov, remember, Tov is transparent, is nullified. His name, the multiplicity of his life, became completely transparent to who he was. And as a result, Hashem flowed through him. And that was that's the concept of Hasidus, how I understand it, is the unification of you personally as a not just biologically, but as a, conceptually, you're made up of endless bits and pieces. When that all comes together and becomes, so to speak, like a chariot for who you really are, that's called Geula. That's called redemption. That's on a personal level. That's on a microcosm. On a macrocosm, that is Hashem being able to express himself through his name. What's his name? All of creation. Malchus Shemayim, Shemu Malchus. When Hashem is privy to his ultimate desire, which is to merge with his creation, to merge with his name, that his name should not be, should not be opaque to his soul. That just like we don't want our actions to be opaque to conceal who we are, we want free-flowing expression. That's what Hashem wants throughout the whole world. And when that is in place, that's going to be called the Geula Shalema. So that's already hinted to in the Baal Shem Tov's name. So just quickly to give you an analogy, a moshel that the Tzemach Tzedek gave, who was the grandson of the Alter Rebbe who wrote the Tanya. What is Hasidus? He explained that water cannot get, and by the way, I know I'm throwing so much at you so quickly, but I'm going to be giving out these sheets. So if you do want to invest yourself into getting these ideas a little deeper, you can, don't miayish, how to say that? Don't despair. Okay. The Tzemach Tzedek explained that when somebody asked him, what is Hasidus? He said like this: water cannot become spiritually impure if it's connected to its source. That's what we call a mikveh. If it's disconnected to its source, it can. But what can happen to water is water can become filthy. It can become disgusting and filthy. But water never actually becomes filthy. Water never actually chemically bonds with hardly anything. It just even salt water doesn't actually affect the water on a molecular level. It just ends up like stuck to the water molecules. Therefore, when you burn water, when you burn it, you distill it, you can always end up with clean water, always. So the water can't get spiritually impure, but it can become filthy. But you can always get rid of the filth from the water. Water's Torah. Everyone knows that for themselves. Torah is compared to water. Torah cannot become treif unless it's being completely cut off from its source. Then actually can, but that, please God, will never happen. But Torah can become filthy. What can make Torah filthy? There's only one filth in the world. The shortest, the smallest word in the English language is probably the most used word there is. That's the only filth that exists in the entire world. the word I. When Torah gets mixed with self-interest, then it becomes filthy. That's like compared to filthy water. Chassidus, said the Tzemach Tzedek, is the fire that burns. It's the fire that burns off the filth in the water. And I can say this without, from my own personal experience, very arrogant thing to say, but I'm just trying to give you a chizuk in the thing, is that I see that happen in myself, that the Torah of Baal Shem Tov, the Torah of Chassidus, actually does that. If you invest yourself into it, not just like I said, a vort here and there, but you put yourself into the actual limud, much the same way you put yourself into learning Gemara, it actually burns off the I, the sense of self. And don't think that means you become a robotic. It's the exact opposite. You become the most full of life being you can become. And your personality becomes exactly that. It's your personality, not that you are your personality. It becomes clear that it's something that you have, and you treat it in that way. And everything that we have is there that we can dedicate it to the Ribbono Shel Olam. So now all of a sudden our personality becomes not an end unto itself, but it becomes a gift that we can give back to Hashem, which is the ultimate gift that we have to give to Hashem, is our personality. And again, that doesn't mean to get rid of the personality. That means to draft the personality into revealing him in his world. Okay. So I have to make a very important distinction between Lubavitch and Chabad. They are not synonymous at all. I have no connection to Lubavitch, and I try to be as much Chabad as I can. We have to make a distinction between the avodah of the Jew. I describe that as the strategy and system for divine service. Gabriel, you have a better translation for avodah? No? Okay, the strategy that we're implementing to serve God, and the community that you belong to. They are two different things. No matter what the community says about themselves or what they believe in, etc., there's your avodah and there's the community. Lubavitch is a community that adheres, and how I understand it quite faithfully, to the ideology of Chabad. Chabad is an ideology. It's a system and a strategy developed by the Alter Rebbe, Shneur Zalman of Ladi, of how to serve God. So go back a few years, and there was not just Lubavitch, there was Strelisk, it was called Kapotz, and then I just found another few. There was Ladi, Nizhin, Rezkni, Babruska. You can look online, I'll give you a link to look, but it's very interesting to see how there was actually lots of communities that were practicing Chabad Avodas Hashem, and they weren't Lubavitch. So I'm not Lubavitch in any way, as you can see by my appearance. So I wanted to make a very important break between Lubavitch and Chabad. I'm not going to be spouting, Rebbe the whole time. And not that I don't hold that he was a great man, but we're here to learn Chabad Chassidus B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. The question is, why did the Alter Rebbe write the Tanya? So in his Hakdama, in his introduction to the Tanya, he actually wrote himself, he wrote down all the answers to all the questions. He was getting bombarded by his community with a huge amount of yechidus, of meetings with people. It became too much. So he just sat down after having met with thousands of people, and he wrote down all the answers to all the questions. That's what he said. It's for people who are already searching for God. It's for people who are already searching how to serve Hashem. It's not for people who are, although it really can help people who don't care and it can spark them off, but it was intended for people who care, who want to serve God, and who, for whatever reason, don't feel they have the tools or the strategy, etc. So he created an entire system. I've written it here as a congruent ideological and philosophical system And what I've realized over the years is no matter how frum people are, most people's hashkafa, their outlook on Judaism, on Torah, is pieced together a bit from here, a bit from there, you know, from this book, from this Rebbe, from this thing they heard, and they patch it together. And, you know, some people to greater, to a more solid extent, some people to a lesser extent. But the Tanya really gives you an entire picture of what we are here to do, who we are. We'll get into a little bit what it says. To quote of Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, he exclaimed what an amazing thing it was that Rav Shneur Zalman of Ladi was able to fit such a big God into such a small book. That's a very famous quote. And I feel nowadays I have at least a little bit of at least a smell, a whiff of what he was getting at. Okay, the messages of the Tanya. Look, this is great. I said to be here at 6:48. And it's 6:50, so we're on track. Okay, the message of the Tanya. So, in my absolute arrogance, I've tried to summarize the message of the Tanya. I brought it down to 4 points. And I'm not sure about which order they go in, but the first circle is the mind rules over the heart, which means your emotions are born from your intellect. And that's why it's called Chabad, because Chabad refers to Chochmah, Bina, and Das, which are your intellectual faculties. What does that mean? That means if I was to ask you the question, what are your feelings about what's happening in Rwanda right now? You would probably look at me and go, don't know. Because you don't know what's going on in Rwanda. I mean, I also don't know what's going on in Rwanda right now. But if you don't know about something, then you can't have any emotions towards it. That's on the most basic level. And the deeper you know something, the deeper will be your emotions towards it. Now, obviously, there's different kinds of people. So, but in regards to you, when you know something superficially, you are only going to have superficial emotions. When you know something in depth, you will be privy to much deeper, more real emotions. So that's a tenet of the Tanya, that you are in control of your mind. That's something that in this generation we don't really believe that much. But he says, and I believe this with all my heart, that you are capable of diverting your mind from negative, destructive thoughts and coercing your mind into thinking positive and constructive thoughts. And if you can do that, that means that you are going to be in control of your heart, because the way Hashem built us is that your mind is shola over your heart. Your mind, your brain is rules. Thank you. Your brain rules over your heart. Again, these are big concepts that we're going to really try and get our teeth into, but we're just throwing them out there. That's number one. Number two, this is incredibly important. God is not spiritual. I can't stress how important this is to understand the Chabad. God is not spiritual. God is not physical and he is not spiritual. He is neither. He is uncreated. Spirituality is a creation, and Hashem is not a creation. So when we think that getting close to God means becoming spiritual, we're making a mistake. Getting close to God comes through there's one path to God. That's called bittul. That means surrender, nullification, transparency, good, whatever, like the words we said before. Spirituality can be very, very much self-involved, just like physicality. And also, physicality can also be very selfless, just like spirituality. But it's a mistake to think that because a person is spiritual, that he's close to God. That's a terrible mistake. The most physical, beefy kind of guy in shul, can be very close to God. And the most spiritual, skinny, the guy who goes like that the whole time could be very far from God. It's not about spirituality. It's about nullification to Hashem. It's about handing over your most prized possession, which is your personality, and then obviously everything else under that. Another way of saying this would be transitioning from being the son who wants to bring his father the slippers to the son who wants his father to have his slippers, which is an infinite difference. The first son, it's about him. I want to serve my dad, but I want to serve my dad. That's already on a level of nullification. That's beyond spirituality, physicality, but that's still a selfish. I mean, we should be zeicha to get there. That's already a high level, but that's still selfish. Where we're trying to get to is, it's not about me serving Hashem. It's about Hashem being served. And that is the ultimate glue that holds all of Yisrael together. It's not that I do the mitzvahs. I mean, when a mitzvah comes my way, chas v'shalom, I'm not going to pass that up. But you doing a mitzvah, if I've moved my perspective out of my little, fat body, then you're doing mitzvahs, your service of God is just as relevant to me as my service of God. That's another place where the Alter Rebbe is trying to move us into. And that comes to the next point I wanted to mention, is that the fear of punishment is not mentioned once in the whole of Sefer Tanya. Not that I've seen anyway. And he spends 10 chapters at the end of the book, from chapter 40 to 50, 51, whatever. 41 to 50, going through all the different types of fear and love of God. And he doesn't mention fear of punishment. And he doesn't mention reward as well. Fear of punishment and love of reward are the same, two sides of the same coin. Why? Why doesn't he mention either of them? Because if you're in it so that you don't get a punishment, or you're in it that you get a reward, then you're not in it for him, you're in it for you. And that means you're connected to that terrible little word, I. And that's not what Hashem wants, how I understand it. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick, the breakdown of the Tanya is, we've got Bezrat Hashem. I'm going to give 10 classes, Bezrat Hashem, and I've got in this paper that I sent everyone, it's going to have the dates and whatever. And I'm just going to very quickly just explain what it goes through, just to give you we didn't even touch the book yet. The chapters 1 to 3 is what is a Jew. Yeah, we're going to work out what is a Jew, and we're also going to understand what is a Gentile, what is a non-Jew. Okay, from chapters 4 to 8, we're going to start understanding deeply, B'ezrat Hashem, the concept of Torah and mitzvahs. From chapters 9 to 17, we're going to get into the inner struggle. Once we've understood the components of what makes us Jewish, then we're going to start to understand the inner struggle, what it means to be Jewish. From chapters 18 to 25, B'ezrat Hashem will discuss a deeper, the depth of the essence of what it means to be Jewish, and get into explaining what it means when we say God is one, which is a very big topic that demands a lot of thinking. Chapters 26 to 34 is about depression and anxiety, that are the two sides of the same coin. They're both, this is truly profound, and we'll talk about this a lot, B'ezrat Hashem. Depression and anxiety are the projection of that little word I into the past and into the future. When you project the word I into the past, you get depressed. When you project the word I into the future, you become anxious. We'll talk about that, B'ezrat Hashem. And joy. And what is joy? What does it mean to be joy? What to be joyful? Chapters 35 to 40, the Rebbe explains what it means, a dwelling place in the lowest world, which is the whole foundation. In fact, this parsha, we're Naso, yeah? Wow, what beautiful hashgacha. It's a medrash on this parsha in Tanchuma of the Dir B'Tachtonim. That is such a lovely hashgacha. And we're also starting by Shavuos, which is the Yortzeit of David HaMelech, no? And the Baal Shem Tov. Wow, what beautiful hashgacha. So we'll learn about dwelling place in the world, in the lowest world, and what the vitality of a mitzvah is. From chapters 41 to 50, we're going to discuss fear and love of God and all the nuances of that, B'ezrat Hashem. From page 51 to 53, where the book ends, we will be understanding what it means, the word Shechina, B'ezrat Hashem. And then class 10, we will do a summary and a review, which will be about as intense as this class. And that's it. On time.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm assuming there aren't any questions. That was too quick for there to be any questions. No.
It's Parshas B'Midbar in Chutz La'aretz.
So where we are. Anyway, so if there are any questions, I wanted to just, because it's going to be intense, this class. So from like 6:15 to 7 o'clock Israel time, that if you need something that you can't move forward, I'll answer it. Otherwise, if there's any questions, you can ask at 7. So if anyone's got any questions now, I'm happy to try and answer them. Otherwise, we can say goodbye.
What does it mean the Baal Shem Tov learned from, I can't remember the name, like
from Achia Shaloni? It must mean some like a neshama spirit, like, you know, like Rav Yosef Cairo had the, you know, Gilui Eliyahu, that Eliyahu came.
Magid. He had a Magid. Rav Yosef Cairo had a Magid.
And who had Eliyahu? Was it the people over
a lot of people?
Yeah, a lot of people. Souls come to them and teach them things. So yeah, that's
the Gra famously had a Magid come to him, and the Gra told him he didn't want to learn with him. He wanted to get by himself.
Yeah, to say
that. Thank you, Gabriel, for arranging this.
I'm going to send everyone. I'll send. Is everybody? I don't know if everybody's on the thing. I'll send out now this this sheet that I've made, and like I said, this information is absolutely transformational. There's no other words for it. It can completely transform your life. It's not just vortlach. It's not just like cute little tidbits. This is real thing. So I'm making these sheets. If you want to invest the time over the week into trying to, you know, ingest these ideas, I think that's a really good investment. So I'll send them out, and there's links to all different kinds of stuff, and I'll also put the video online somewhere and maybe make a website or something. But anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Shmuel.
Yeah.
The classes will be recorded and accessible in the event that we are not able to attend one or more sessions.
Yeah, please God.
All right, if anyone didn't sign up or anything, just post your email here in the chat so Shmuel can send you the
do that. Yeah, send me
info.
Okay, thank you.
Well, can I ask a quick question?
I got to run.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure.
Well,
so in Perkei Avos,
Alex, can we see it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Rav Diamond, thank you for giving us your time.
My pleasure. Bye, Tommy.
In Perkei Avos, right, it teaches that it says if a person isn't for himself, then who will be for him, right?
Yeah.
So how do we understand that with Bittul? Where does that fit in?
That's exactly the point. That if you can't give your personality to God, then no one's going to be able to give your personality to God. That's one of the things. If you don't drive people around, yeah, if you've got a car which really belongs to God, but it's your car.
Uh-huh.
If you don't dedicate that to the service of Hashem, then maybe someone else will. He might take it away from you, give it to somebody else. But your personality, that you have to give that to him. Don't think that bittul means that you're losing your, I mean, to say it, we're going to discuss it much deeper. It's not a quick, it's not what you're thinking. It's a very deep concept, and it's absolutely liberating, and it's what we all desire.
Great.
The question. Square.
Okay. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice, man, Alex.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, man. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
hi. So these, I see they're being recorded. Will they be accessible if the event which we're not able to be here during that time?
Yeah. I'll send out a link. I'll put them somewhere. Yeah, for sure. As well,
Okay. Fantastic.
Okay. Sei gesund, everyone. Good Yom Tov.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.